Okay, everybody, we're coming back. I added a file in here called demo.java, and I put it in the Sophia subfolder. So let me show you one more time, just in case you missed it from earlier. I'm actually going to shut CyberDuck down because I don't want it to interfere with my recording software. And I'm going to go to my web browser here. I'm going to type in www.behecker.com /Sophia. You know what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to bookmark this. Bookmark this page. I'm going to call this one Sophia Files. And I don't even know where that went. But then this time, actually if I do this, it's going to come up with a forbidden error. Because the outer directory is forbidden. However, I put another file in here called demo.java. If you do that one, it's going to come up like this. So if you go to this URL, demo.java, you can see the source code, and you can cut and paste it and stick it into your Eclipse if you want. So instead of putting the zip file, I put the .java file in there. So make note of that, and I'll leave it on here for a few minutes for people to copy that down. It's just demo.java. That way I don't have to wait for the entire room to type everything. You can just like this. It's actually quite easy. Copy, paste. Or better yet, you can actually download this file if you want. If you download it from here and do a save as, or want to do it from here and go save page as, and you want it to do the text, you don't want to save it as an HTML file. You want to save it as a text file, because it is just a text file. Okay, so on that note, let me go back to Eclipse. And I have the demo put in. During the break, I created another project here. I'm going to close this one so I don't confuse it, because we're done with this one. Yes? Yes, I may. Hold on a second. Let me go back. Oops, it wasn't this one. Let's see. I think it was Chrome I was on. Here it is. I'm sorry? Oh, if you're in Chrome, let me do this one more time. Hold on. I'm in Chrome. I can go File, Save Page As, and then it's going to put a .txt extension on the end of it. I'm taking the .txt extension off of it, and I'm saving it on my desktop. If I do that, it should be on my desktop right there. It says demo.java on my desktop. If I'm in Chrome, I'm going to File, and I'm going Save Page As. In Chrome? I don't know. If you right mouse click, you can go Save As. Save As? Yeah, but take the .txt off of it. Sophia? Did I misspell it? No, I got it. Oh, if you're in Safari, let's see. I'll do it in Safari. Where is Safari? Safari. If I'm in Safari, I'm going to go to www.behecker.com /Sophia /demo with a capital D, mo.java. Java. And it's here. And I'm going to go File, Save As. And then actually Safari doesn't want to put the TXT on it, which is good.
Yeah, it won't let you to save.
What won't let you to save it?
If you hit save,
This says use web archive or use both. You cannot save this document with extension .java at the end of the name. Just do this then. Text. Oh, actually, you're right. Page source would be a better choice. Java. Save as plain text? Yes. Oh, you know what? I appended to this file that's already out here. I already had it on my desktop. So now I have 2 in 1, actually, because it appended it. So now here's the first part of it. No, actually it didn't append it. Well, that's good. So better yet, you don't actually have to save it. You can just use it as a reference if you'd like. So you could just use it like this. Copy. Actually, you could do this like this. Just take the whole thing, copy it, and paste it into a Java file. Let's do that, actually. Let me show you something here. I'm going to close this one. Close project. There we go. I want to use the content that's on the website here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm in Eclipse. I'm going to go File, New Java Project, and I'm going to call this one Sunday again. I don't know, because I want to. This is just stuff, and I'm going to press Finish. And in here, I can create a new class. So I can come up here and say File, New. This time I'm going to create Class. Create new class. And I'm going to call this one Demo, demo.java. Or actually, I don't have to put the .java. I can just say Demo. It doesn't really matter what I'm going to select because it's going to give me an empty class like that. And then I'm going to go to the website here. This is in Safari. And I'm going to do this. I'm just going to copy this whole thing and I'm going to paste it in the demo file. So I'm going to go Edit, Copy, get rid of this stuff, Edit, Paste, and voila, I got my code in here. If you want, you just copy and paste it, put it into a demo file. And then if I run it, I get errors. No, I don't get errors. I get the demo. Anyone still need help getting the sample? Yeah? Should I give you a few minutes? Let me pause this for a second. So people are trying to import the file. Let me show you how to do that. I have the file, had the file on my desktop somewhere. Oh, here it is actually right here. Oh no, it is up here, demo.java. So let me show you another technique here. I'm going to close Sunday again. Let's see. Close. Close all. Okay. I've closed. No, I haven't closed it. I don't know. Close project. There we go. Close this one too. Close project. I just want to make sure there's no confusion. New Java file. I'm going to call this Sunday Sun again. That's going to be two. Another. Another example. There we go. Finish. I have the downloaded file on my desktop. I'm going to hit on the source folder. I'm going to go into File. And I'm going to click on Imports. Imports. Last time we were importing existing projects, we're going to go into the file system. So we're going to import in from the file system option. I'm going to click on Next. And then I'm going to click on the Browse. And I'm going to select the file from the desktop. Oh, I'm not going to do it that way. Hold on one second. Here's my demo. Let's see, cancel. Cancel. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Get back here. I know I can, actually, you know what? Here's a better way of doing it. Take the Java file that's on your desktop, drag it into, taking it, click on it, drag it in. You see the little plus? Adding it. And then it's going to tell me, do I want to copy the file or do I want to link the file? I want to copy it. Because then it'll end up going into my workspace folder. So now it should be in there. Whoops. Where did I copy it into? Oh, here it is. If I want to move it into the source folder, I just did that. Copy file. If you copy the file, this one's called Another Example. It should be in here now. You can drag it. That's what I'm saying. It's probably easier just to drag it. Yeah. And here's the file right here. It's inside of the Another Example that I created in the source code folder. Yeah, just drag it. I think that's the easiest thing. So when you drag it, you'll see the little plus. You can actually drag, I dragged it to the main folder. I can drag it to the source code folder as well. Or if you put it in, you can always drag it here and move it from here anywhere you want. So now I have it in another example, so I'll just work from this one. And I just want to make sure this one works, so I haven't messed anything up. No, I'm good. Okay, so I'm going to assume we're all up to speed at this point. Okay, so let me tell you what's in this example file. Okay, so earlier before the break, I was talking about arrays and I was talking about command line arguments. I want to show you the command line stuff first. And the command line stuff is in here. It's just embedded down here. And now you don't do this, but I'm going to do this because I want to demonstrate a point. Don't do this. I'm actually going to copy this out of my example. Unless you want to do this, you can do this. I'm going to create another project. So file, new, Java project. And I'm going to call this one command with a capital C-O-M-M-A-N-D. I'm doing this so it's easier for me to type at a command prompt. Because I have to run this from a command prompt in order to get the feedback. I know there's a way of doing it in Eclipse, but I just don't want to deal with it. So in command, I'm pulling the code out of the demo. I'm going to stick it in command just to separate it out so I can show you this demonstration. In the source code folder, I'm going to add another project. Excuse me, I'm going to add a class, and the class is going to be called example with a capital. Well, yeah, let's do example. So I have example. Oops. Actually, you know what? I wanted to put a main method in there. Let me do it again. Where's my command? Here it is. I'm going to remove this one. I'm going to delete it, and then I'm also going to delete it. So, sure you want to delete it? Yeah. And let me do it again. Example. There we go. Okay. I'm doing this just to show you the abstraction of what we're looking at here. Get rid of demo for a second. There we go. So on the command line argument, when I run example, I'm going to pull in a string. And the string is going to be created from the items that I start typing in. And it's going to come in the form of a string. So I'm going to take the string and do something with it. So I'm going to create two variables that I've created right now. One's called sum, and the other one is called counter. And I'm going to set the sum to equal 0. This initializes the running sum to 0. And what I'm going to do is going to type example space 1, 2, 3. And we're going to see 1, 2, 3 added together using the command line arguments. And in order to accomplish that, I'm going to parse the string to an int. So actually, I can make this code a little bit easier here. I'll just do this here. Sum is equal to 0, and counter is equal to 0. Let's do that, actually. There we go. Because I want to show you, again, different ways of creating variables and stuff. So we have sum is equal to 0, counter is equal to 0. And then I have this loop. So if I wanted to, I can create a for loop. And let me just show you the syntax of the for loop. And what this program is going to do once we get done writing it, modifying it, it's going to take the command line arguments, parse them out for what they are, and print it to the screen in a loop. So the for loop works like this. So for, and then we have the opening and closing brackets, and whatever it is we put in this opening and closing brackets evaluates to true or false. So if this were, and then this is for illustrative purposes, but if I were to do this, I want to put a condition in. Can't resolve to a type. I know it can't. But this is going to go true or false, and then it's going to go in 3 steps. So there's 3 components to this. So I'm going to write another loop here. I'm going to say integer I is equal to 0. And then I is less than 10. And then I want to go I plus plus. So in this particular loop, I'm not gonna worry about this rest of the code. I'm gonna comment out the rest of the code I put in here because I want to start with a little basic concept here. If I were to run this program, I've got 3 components for the for loop. You need all 3. You don't necessarily need to do the integer part in here. It can just be I, but I have to define I. So if I said, up here I go I is equal to 0, comma, sum is equal to 0, and counter is equal to 0. It's just like saying integer I is equal to 0. Integer sum is equal to 0. Integer counter is equal to 0. I'm trying to give you more advanced kind of syntax. It's based upon some of the stuff I've given you already. So if you do have a question about something I'm doing, just let me know. In here, I'm initializing it to 0. Otherwise, the value of I that I used last time is going to show up in here. That's why you'll always see I being set to something. And you don't have to use I, you can call it anything you want. I use I because it's an integer I is less than 10. And then I plus plus. So if I is 0, first iteration, and I'm going to show you something here. I'm just going to go system out dot print line I. Let's just print out I. I print out I and I run this program, I'm going to get something that looks like this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm getting 0 through 9 printing to the screen with, move this down so you can see this code, with these code statements, because all I'm doing is printing out I. So I never makes it to 10. I starts with 0, and then 9 is less than 10, but then 10 is not less than 10, so it stops. The control mechanism is right here. It's just I plus plus. This is the same thing you get in C++, by the way. A lot of people like to put, like, they're going to think about, oh, let's put a semicolon at the end. The semicolons throw people off. This is like a statement. This is like a statement. This is like, okay, I plus plus. This is part of the for part. So the 3 components you're not ending this yet. Instead, the I plus plus. In fact, you can go I minus minus. I'm going to flip this around in a few minutes. I'm going to say I is equal to 10.
Exactly.
Huh?
I minus minus.
And then if I'm going to do that right now, actually. So I'm going to go I minus minus. I'm going to go backwards. So I is equal to 10, while I is larger than 0. I minus minus. Let's see if this works. I'm going to run it. And it's kind of hidden on my screen. Let me pull my screen up a little bit. Now I got it backwards. I got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I haven't used it yet. I know. I haven't used this yet. I was basically trying to show you how to do the for loop. I'm going to do the counter in a few minutes. I'm going to use the counter with something else. I just made some variable declarations up here. I haven't used these yet. In fact, even Eclipse is telling me I haven't used it yet because it's the value of the local variable sum is not used. Yes, I know that. But yes, it can go backwards. Yeah. Because I'm starting I out with a value, 10, and I'm going, well, I is larger than 0, which would be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I minus minus. If I go this, let me switch it back. If I go I is equal to 0, I is less than 10. If I is equal to 10, if I want to put the 10 in there, I have to put equal. Well, I is less than or equal. Less than or equal to 10. I plus plus. Now I'm going to get the 10 printed out. Now the 10 goes out, 0 through 10. Before, I had it like this. I'm only going to get through 9 because 10 is not less than 10. Ah, but check this out. I can go 5, 4, 3, 2. I can make the loop as big or as small. I can, let's just do 100 here. while it's less than 100, well then this thing's going to go up to 99. And then inside the loop, I can change the value of I if I wanted to. This is going to mess you up. I'm going to say that I is equal to 50. But here's the problem. This loop is never going to end, because 50 is always less than 100. I'm afraid to do this because it's going to create an endless loop. Let's see. Let's see if it bombs out my recording software. Let's see. Or if I never change, I mess up the value of I inside the loop. This is what's, you guys want to see this thing corrupt? Let's see. I sort of want to see it corrupt. Let's see. It's just not going to stop running. 50, 50, 50. See how it's moving like really weird? Eventually this process is going to end. I think I actually have to close this now. And I'm probably going to have to kill Eclipse. Yeah, I got the ball of misery happening. Let me close. Fortunately, I've done this before, so I know how to. Oops. Oh, my recording software is still going, which is good. Eclipse is not liking it. Force quit. Ah, okay, I got it force quit. Let me bring it back up. Let me take that out. What I created was what's called an endless loop. It just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. Endlessly. It won't stop. And here's why it's not going to stop. Because inside the loop, I'm saying I is equal to 50. So I've now, doesn't matter. This is already run. It's on this part that's going on. I plus plus, I plus plus, I. But no, I is equal to 50. So this is changing the value of the counter. So what you really don't want to do, if you're going to do a for loop, you don't want to you don't want to do this. You don't want to change the value of I. You can use I in the loop. Like I is right here, and I'm printing out the value of I. But I don't want to change the value of I, because then that kind of negates everything I'm doing with the control mechanism for it. You had a question?
Yeah, when I try to want to program the ask for like ant build something.
Ant build? Oh, that's a different problem completely. All right, hold on one second. Let me show you what that problem is. Okay. So the reason why this loop didn't end is because we were changing the value of I in the loop. If I change I to anything, it gets changed, and all this code runs 100 times in this particular case, and every time it runs, it's going to change the value. So if you add like some like I is equal to 1, don't do this either. This loop is never going to change. It would change if I did this. Watch this. This is actually safe. I is equal to 101. Because if I'm going from 0 to 100, 101, this loop's not even going to run. So if I do this and I run it, nothing's really going to happen. 101 is going to print to the screen. It only runs one time. Yeah. So this is one of the loops, and I'm gonna document this one. I'm going to call this a for loop example. And let me move this out of the way, because this, well, generally I like to put the variable declarations at the top of the code. This is a very imperative style of programming. You just put all the declarations, initializations at the top of the code. So we haven't used counter yet, we haven't used sum yet, but we're using I so far. So now what I want to do is I want to call your attention to another loop. It's going to be called the do loop. Do just does something. So if I go do, and then I have an opening and a closing bracket, it's going to do something until, how is it? Now I have to remember the syntax. Let's see, what is this going to say? While expression, yes, I know. I need to put the do while, yeah. So here I'm going to need to put a while condition, while true. That is just going to go endlessly. So this is a do example. And the other thing to note, if you can't remember case, because I constantly do this to myself, and I go, I always want to start it, because you know, like you're typing, and you always want to start out with a capital character at the beginning of a word, because that's how you were taught to write English. And then I have to remember, if it's a language construct, it's always lowercase. the only thing that are uppercase, the only thing that starts out with an uppercase is an object. Yeah, it's a class name or an object. Or project names are supposed to be in uppercase. But if you follow the standard of uppercase, lowercase, and just do everything in lowercase, you're in good shape. All right, so in here, I'm going to do the same example using I that we did up here. In fact, this loop is just going to run for the 101. But now I'm going to show you what you have to do in here, which is counterintuitive to what you did in here. Do will just do something while an event is true. This is the equivalent to the same loop I did here by setting I to something. This will just run endlessly. I don't want to do that again because then I have to turn my computer, I have to turn Eclipse off. So usually we're going to do something in here like I is less than 100. And then in the loop, at the end of the loop, I'm going to go I++. You can put it anywhere you want. And then I'm going to take and copy this line here. And I'm going to stick this one in here too. So we're learning a lot of language syntax today. I'm going to take this I equals 100. These two loops are going to do the exactly same thing. This one's going to do system out print I. If I do this, because I at the end of this loop, well, I is going to be equal to 0. I is actually going to be equal to 99. So I'm going to set I to equal 0 again out here. I'm doing this outside of the loop. And then now I'm going to run the loop, do the loop. Well, I is equal to 0, 0, I++, 1, 2, 3. While I is less than 100, do this loop. So these two do loop, doing exactly the same thing as the for loop above. So if I run it, I'm going to get 0 through 99 printed out, and then I'm going to get 0 through 99 printed out twice. Let's see. Let's see if this, actually, you know what, I can just do print here. Watch this. I've been doing print line for you. It prints with a line return at the end, but I can do this as well. I can go system out dot print. Watch this. I'm going to put a little space in here. So I'm going to have them all on one line. Makes my output easier to read. So I'm going to do the same thing here. System.out print. So the print by itself is just going to print. Actually, I put two spaces. Well, this is okay. Put a space like that. The print line prints it with a line return. So this is going to have two lines that are going to look identical. If I run it, whoops, I should put a line return. Hold on one second. I want the two lines up, so right here I'm going to do a print line. System out dot print line. That's actually just going to print a line. Nothing on the line, it's just going to do the line return. So I have a space. I have one line, and we're going to say another line underneath it. There you go. So you can see that the loops are doing the identical thing. They're both printing out 0 through 99. I wanted to make the output easier. I could go 0 through 10. Now I can see it all on one page. So, because 10 is the control, and 10 is not, I can do the same thing here. I can go equals, 10 is smaller than or equal to 10, which would print out 10. I is smaller than or equal to 10, print out the 10. So now I'm going to get the 0 through 10. Now my 10 shows up. Or if I don't want to start with 0, I don't have to. I can start with 5, or 4, or 3, or 2. And then if that's the case, I'm going to change this one over here so it matches. Now I'm just going to go 5 through 10. So it prints out 5 through 10. So the loop allows us to go through any number of times, starting with any start, going to any end, and each one is one increment. one cycle through the loop. The do loop will do something first. Then it will evaluate at the end. The for, unless the condition is true, won't do anything. So do will always run once. For won't run if the control is already set. So watch this. If I set I to 10, let's see. If I set I to 10, and then I set I to 10 here. If I is equal to 10, I is, let's say, less than 10, I plus plus. So that loop's not going to run because I is less than 10. No, it's equal to 10. And I set I to equal to 10 over here, and then now I'm going to print out 10. This is going to print out 10 to the screen, while I is less than 10, and then it's going to stop because I is equal to 10. I have a blank space being printed out up here. I have a 10 being printed out here. And I'm getting that blank space because I'm getting the print up here, the print line, my line return. So my for loop isn't running, but my do while loop is running. We all catch that part. Because do is guaranteed to go at least once. For isn't going to run at all if this condition isn't met. And every time it goes through the loop, it looks for this condition. Digest it, marinate it. I'm going to leave these. I'm going to leave this back. I'll put it back on 1 to 10. Otherwise, these loops aren't going to run. So we're going to start out with 1. While 1 is less than 11, then I'm going to get 1 to 10. So it's now 1 is less than 11. And I'm going to print this out, make sure I have 1 through. So now I took the 0 out. Now I have 1 through 10 because I wanted to start with 1 instead of 0. So I have 1. So they're very flexible. And fortunately for you, those are the only two you have to really know in Java. It's the same thing in C++. You're learning C++ at the same time as well because it's the same constructs. So let's take a look at this stuff here. And this is what I was talking about before with those arrays. The string array. So I created these, I'm going to leave this in the example, and I'll put the other example, I'll call it like demo. Actually, I'll replace the current demo with this demo when I'm all done with it, so at least it has the corrected code in it. I've been using I. Now I want to use the sum that's equal to 0 and counter that's equal to 0. I'm going to be using that down here. So this is going to be the command line argument. Command line argument example. And here, actually what I'll do is this. I'll take this and put it below. So we're working at the top of the code. Okay, we're running our lovely little program. And we decide that we want to take a look at the command line arguments. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to put together a for loop. I can use I or I can use counter. In this particular case, it's using it's using counter. I can do the same thing I did before. Actually, let's just switch it to I. I is equal to 0. This is the same loop we looked at a few minutes ago, except for we got a little separate little part here. While I is less than arguments.length, I plus plus. Same loop we did a few minutes ago, but this is the different part. Arguments is a string. It's a string array that comes through. If the length is 0, nothing is going to print out. If the length is larger, then it's going to, if this is, while I is less than 0, if I is equal to 0 while I is less than 0, I plus plus, well, I is not going to be less than 0 if I is 0. So it's not going to run unless arguments are 5, 6. Arguments is a variable that is coming from the command line. ARGS stands for a short abbreviation for arguments. Arguments come through, and we're going to see this run in a few seconds here, from the command line. So remember before I was typing in Java 1, 2, whatever? Those come in as an argument string array. And the string array, in our case, we're going to parse it. We're going to parse it to integer values, and then we're going to use those integer values to add them up. So this program is really going to be, the example is really going to be an adding program. So if I wanted to, actually don't do this, but I'm going to do this to make it easier for some people to kind of figure syntactically. If I call this, let me save it actually. I'm going to turn this program into something else. Add. I'm going to call the program add. And update similar names. Let's just do, can I call it add? I think I can call it add. Finish. Yeah, it's bad. By convention, it wants me to do uppercase. So let me change it to uppercase actually. That way when I run it, I'll remember what it is. ADD. Okay, yes. Okay, so I have capital ADD, add. It's the same program. I just renamed it to something else because now I'm changing the nature of the program. So let's see. Add's going to take the argument command line argument. So I'm going to type add space 1 space 2 at the command line. And it's going to take 1 and add it to 2. The nature of this program I'm writing. By parsing the command line arguments that come through. So in my for loop, and what I will do for simplicity's sake is comment out this other system out so you can see what's going on. Oh, what did I do wrong here? I did syntax inserted as complete with class body. What did I do here? Oh, that's because I didn't do this. There we go. Okay, good. I'm going to write a for loop that's going to go through the command line arguments. Sum is going to be equal to sum plus this is the new part. This is a class integer. And we're going to run a dot parse int. And we're passing to it the arguments from the counter. So before we go this far, let's just print out the counter arguments. So if I do that, I can do this. I can say, as an example, system.out.println. And let's just put in arguments with arguments I. And then we'll run it and we'll see what's going on to start with. And then we'll see, this is actually not going to print anything out if I run it from Eclipse, so I have to go back to a command prompt to do it. So the simple version that we're working with right now has I is equal to 0. I is less than the arguments.length, I++. Arguments is arguments. It's a string array that's going to come through the command line arguments. System.out.println arguments I. Well, I is this one. It's the same thing we were doing down here, printing out I, but now we're using I as the index value for the string array that we're taking in on the command line. So let me just do a little test here to make sure it runs, and it does, but it didn't give I any values. So let me show you what this does actually. And this answers your question from earlier in terms of how to take the string, convert it to a number. You can parse int, parse float, parse double, and this is actually the same as JavaScript. So if you learn it in Java, you can use it in JavaScript too. But let's go back to, what do I want? I want a command prompt. I got rid of my command prompt. Let's see. I know there's a way of sending command line arguments inside of, actually I wanted to do this. Where am I? Change directory to documents, change directory to workspace. I probably should just keep this bookmarked. I think I called it command line. What did I call it? Let me just make sure I'm in the right project. I am in command. Oops. Command. Oh, you know why? Change directory to bin. Here's my add.class. So I'm going to run add.class by going like here, Java add. This is the same results I got out of Eclipse. Nothing. It doesn't print anything to the screen. So now I'm going to go, I'm going to write the same thing as I did before, but I'm going to go like this. Now I get 1, 2. So if I do add, whoops, Java add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's just taking the arguments that I'm putting on the command line, and they're actually strings. So I can do this. Bob, Peter, whoops, Larry, and Mo. I got Bob, Peter, Larry, and Mo. Or I can do this. I can go A1, 2. A1, 2. Anything. Whatever I'm putting on the command line. Hello world is being printed out. Because what I'm doing is I'm just looping through the code. Let me go back to the code for a second here. It's just systeming out the arguments that are coming through on the array. The array elements are I. I is 0 through the length of the array. So if I is smaller than the length of the array, and at the end of the array there's a line return. So there's a new line character that's being caught, which ends the array, which gives us our length. But you don't have to know that. Then I am just literally just going through. Now if I wanted to add them up, I could do this line here. So I'm going to comment out this line for a second because I want to see this one go. This line is going to add the arguments to the running sum. So I'm going to go through the array. Sum is going to be equal to sum plus integer parse int, and this is the same thing. I'll have to change this one to I. So I'm not really using counter at all in this. And then at the end of the loop, then I want to print out sum. So I can actually do this. I can go, the sum is plus sum. And in here, actually I could just print out I. I can still print out I if I want to. Because this is not printing anything out. This is just going to take the sum. So I'm going to run it here. I'm going to get the same results. I got nothing. Well, the sum is 0. The sum is 0 because I didn't put anything on the command line arguments. So if I come back here and I run it this way, if I put numbers in, so add 10 and 20, it's going to tell me that the sum is 30. Because I parse the string to an int, and I'm adding them together, and I'm copying them to a variable called sum. If you don't like this stuff, you're probably not mentally able to do computer science. A lot of looks like. It is learnable. And some of you are getting it. It just takes time, I know. So if I do a 0 and 23, I get the sum is 23. I got, I don't know, 2 and 9, 11. So if I, let's type Bob and Mary. Bob and Mary. I get an error message. How are you going to take Bob and convert Bob to a number? If I do actually single characters, I think I'm going to get the ASCII. No, because I'm still going to get a message. So, yeah, but when you run it, you got to send the command line arguments. In fact, let me take a few seconds here and see if I can do it. Let's say run. I don't like toggle line breaks. No, you have to give. I'll find out at the break how to do it. I used to be able to know how to do it. There's like a little screen that will prompt up to have you put the arguments in there, and then it'll run for you. It's tedious, in my opinion. It's easier for me just to run it from my command line. let's do this. Let's print out the argument length. So system out. And in here, I'm going to print out arguments.length. Length is a method that we're running on the array arguments that's going to tell us how long it is. So I'm going to say length is. If I do that and I run it in Eclipse, it's going to say length is 0. Oops, actually length is not even calculated. Sum is 0 because length is. I actually have to give it arguments because this loop's not going to run. If I do it this way, let's take it out this way. Let me pull it out of this loop and put it before the loop because that loop's not going to run because it's 0. If I is equal to 0 and the length is equal to 0 and 0 is not less than 0, the loop's not going to run. Which is why you'd probably, if you wanted to run at least once, you'd use the do loop. Now if that were the case, you can do, and then if it's 0, you can tell the user, in fact we'll do this next, that, hey, you didn't enter in any arguments, please try again, thank you, exit. So if I run it now, it's going to tell me that the length is 0, because the length is 0. Watch this. So if I come in here and I say, well, I'm not going to give it any arguments, this is what I'm doing before. Well, the length is 0. So let me give it some arguments. I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to say the length is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The length is 4. 4 pieces I put in there. The length of the arguments that I put in on the string. This. Now there's 3. The length is 3. Or 2. Better yet, 1. Length is 1. 1. The sum is 1. Or better yet, 0. The I is never smaller than the length if the length is 0 and I is 0. That's why it doesn't run. The loop won't run because, watch this. The loop's not going to run because I is equal to 0 and I is less than 0. 0, 0. 0 is never less than 0. If I said equals to 0, it would run. But better yet, let's do this. Let's just do a do. We know what the length is, right? So let's just do it like this. Let's prevent the user from actually running the program until they give us something. So we do a do, and I'm going to put the do at the top of the program. And on the bottom of the program, I'm going to put a while. So down here, I'm going to put the while in here. And the while test is whether arguments length is equal to 0. So if arguments dot length is larger than 0. If it's 0, well, what we're going to do is, well, while it's larger than 0, then we're going to run the program. Actually, this is going to be an endless loop because the argument length is never going to change. So let me take this out of here then. Let me take this out. This is going to cause a logic error. Let's put it in here. Now let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. If arguments.length is equal, let's parse it. Actually, let's do it. We want to parse it to an integer. Well, that's actually just going to give us an integer, so we don't have to parse it. We're just going to say is equal to 0. Then we're going to do this. We're going to say system out dot print line give me something to add. And then I'm going to put this little lovely exit in here. Ooh, is exit going to work? Exit's not going to work. Method exit is break. What is it? It's not exit. Terminate? Huh? Yeah, give me 2 seconds. What time do you have to leave? Or here, hold on 1 second. Let me just pause this for a second. We don't have to talk about lunch break while being recorded. Pause. Let's see if we can get through this, and we're going to break at 12:30. Let's see. Or whenever I actually end up getting this to work. Let's see. Exit, terminate, break. What is it? I think it's exit. I can't remember what the command is. I guess to close the program down. Ah, return. Maybe, no. I don't know. I'll figure out what that is at the break. But essentially what we want to do is give... Actually, this will work because nothing's going to happen. Is it exit 0? Exit 0. I don't know. Now I'm jogging my memory here. I gotta go fix this. Wait. No, it's not a wait. Exit. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think it did work.
No, because you add a new class.
Let's see if this works, actually. I'm curious to see what this is going to do. Oops, I closed my command console window. Hold on 1 second. Let me bring this back up. Give me something to add. Let's get rid of these lengths here. Let me put the length back in the loop. Because it's still printed. No, it's not exiting. You're right. It would have exited here. Watch this, though. I'll fix this interface. Because it can't do anything. Let's put this here. Edit. Cut. We'll stick it inside the loop. Because if the loop is 0, the loop's never going to run. I'll figure out what that command is. There's a Java command to end the program. And I can't remember what it is right now. Really? I don't think so. Let's see. I'd be surprised if it actually works. Oh, system.exit. Yes. Thank you. 0. That will actually exit the program. System.exit. Yes. I was going. In C. It's exit. In Java, it's system.everything. It's for command line. So let's see. This should exit. Give me something to add. Okay. So let me try this out here. Because now we're checking for the command line prompts. Give me something to add. Okay, so let's do it this way. Add 1 and 90. Okay, I got something. Length is 2. 1. Length is 2. 90. That's because I put the length is in the loop. So I can improve this program by pulling that out, putting that back where it was before. Let's see. Because I was trying to fix it this way, I took this out. Let me take this out of the loop. Edit cut. There we go. Put this like here. Edit paste. That looks good. Now it'll print the length is 2, 1 and 90, and the sum is 91. Okay. Only a little bit more before we have lunch. Let's see. I want to get through the rest of the example. So let's see. What have I got down here? This is the same loop we had before. Same loop we had before. Oh, I'll get rid of this. I don't want to add this. That private method was a mistake. Good. Okay, so the other thing that I had put together for us in the Java example, and the one thing I wanted to show you, was this concept of arrays. So I'm going to pull this out here, edit copy, and stick it in the add program. And I will stick this at the top of the program. We don't necessarily have to deal with these command line arguments everywhere. we can deal with them further down the code if we want. In fact, this loop is like self-contained. So instead I want to do something else. I want to work with the array and show you more about the array concept. So the array that we created with the command line arguments came from main, and they came through this main function. Just like we run the other functions and we send them arguments, but these come from the command line, which makes them different type of arguments. They automatically get generated by the command environment to go into this array. Here I'm creating another array, and this is an opening and closing bracket like before. And because it's a string array and I don't want to set the size of this array, I'm just saying nothing. String name. Name is John Doe, Mary Jane, and Peter Pan. And the syntax for it is this opening and closing curly bracket. So now I have this name just like I have arguments. So I could do name.length, just like I did arguments.length. So the dot length is giving us the length of this string array. So this is the same thing we did before with the argument array, but it says integer I is equal to 0, I is less than name.length, I++. It's just going to print out the names for us. And then we have same code we looked at before. And then because this is second, this is further down, this is going to give me something to add after it prints the names to the screen. So if I run the code, it should print the names to the screen, John, Mary, and Peter, and then give me something to add. Because I just created this string array and I stuck it on the top, John, Mary, and Peter. All right, so let's come back in here for a second. And let's see what else I wanted to show you. Some counter parse int, if we look at that. Let's take a look at this in kind of a shorter. So the array is done with a declaration, and the declaration in this point says, like, for example, this was a string. The data type, these opening and closing brackets to say, and these are dynamic arrays, by the way, so they're a little different than static array declarations. I was going to show you static first, and I'm thinking, no, let's just show you dynamic, just right off the bat here. The name of the array is called an array. This one is going to hold integers. And if I want, I can actually specify the length of the array. In this particular case, I'm going to use this syntax and say an array is equal to new int 10, which is going to give me 10 integers. And then I can initialize the arrays by going an array and then the index values, and then have them equal to integer values. So this 0, 1 is the same as this in here because I is a counter. This is element 0, 1, 2. So arrays start out 0, 1, 2, except this little argument starts out 1, 2, 3, which is the oddest thing in the world, but because it's done differently. But in essence, what we're looking at is the same concept, but the programmer would define their own array, put their own values in the array, and then use the values throughout the program. Why do you want to do this? Because you can have 10 ints all under an array, and you can get at them through the index values, and you don't have to remember the name of 10 different variables. All you basically have to remember is the name of the array variable, and then you just insert the values that go inside of it. All right. And in this example that I had in the original demo file, because I'm creating a new one called add, and I'll put the add.java out on the same website as I put the demo.java, so you can see the finished product. During the break, I just pulled this from another example that I had, and we could actually create a nice little loop instead of just printing them out this way. In this example, I just printed out the values. Index value is 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I add that to here too, without me having to retype the code, I can simply just paste this in here. Because I left it as 0 and 1. Now this is good. 0 and 1. I'm printing out the values. So in this particular case, if I do this and run it, I get element at 0 is 100, element at 1 is 99, and then give me some code to add because I didn't I didn't supply with any variables to add with. So mesh that, think about that one for a while. We'll have more practice with arrays, but I wanted to show you the array equivalents to the string array. This is pretty much the same thing, the string name. But in this case, we're getting it from the command line arguments. And in this case, for hard setting, we're creating our own array. So we can create our own arrays of integers, doubles, floats. We can parse a string to an int. We can parse it to a double. We can parse an int to a string. We can go back and forth between the different data types. And it's actually the same as JavaScript in a lot of ways. So, and it's a little bit different than C++. C++ has got more of a casting thing to it. But I don't want to do a full array lecture for you right now. Instead, I want to mix it in with assignment number 2 that we're going to look at after lunch. So, questions on this example, the add.java program? Because I'm at a good stopping point actually right now. Okay, so let me end this recording.